Canada is letting 500,000 immigrants now instead of 450. What's that going to do to the real estate market? That is topic number one on today's video. The second one is we're opening up the Greenbelt. There's a lot of hot takes I'm giving you today. And then we got one here, condo mania is over. You'll see what I'm talking about. And then of course we got a whole bunch of other rapid fire questions I want to talk about where building permits are down, and we got a new economic update from our Minister of Finance. It's going to be a jam-packed video, so make sure to stay tuned to the end. And if you are looking for help on how to navigate this real estate market, you can book a call with me using the link that's on the screen right here, www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on a date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zhen, and I run and operate a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto Area, on top of making wicked lightning round videos like this to give you all the things that are happening in the real estate market and all the things that affect it, because there's so much news, way too much news. First one, Ottawa is raising immigrant target to 500,000 by 2025. For anyone who doesn't remember, it was 450 before, and now we're basically increasing it by 10%. Look, man, I'm all for immigration. I'm a product of immigration. And yes, immigration is great for real estate prices, whatever. But it's not going to affect the short-term pain that we're feeling in the real estate market right now. Like I've always been saying, immigration and the shortage of land that we're seeing in Greenbelt, which I'll talk a little bit later, is more of a 7 to 10 year play. But right now, to increase immigration targets by another 10%, they're probably going to overshoot it because they realistically do, because they never count the international, non-permanent people who come in. It's way too many people. We have no idea how to house them. Keep in mind, we have this 1.5 million homes that are supposed to be built by 2030, right? It takes time to build these homes. And now we're just increasing this as if the homes are already ready. It's way too much, man. It's way too much. And then they're talking about how this is good because we're trying to address the labor shortage. I totally agree. But what I'm looking at this is right now, we're importing a way of how to fight inflation. What's going to happen is that if we can't house all these people, where are they going to live? If they're going to do this, maybe at the very least, force them not to be in say Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal, where housing is really unaffordable, right? And force the immigrants into different pockets so that they can be housed. At least that's kind of my take on this. So in short, good long-term, terrible short-term. Next topic. Greenbelt, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of people hating on this. So they're trying to build 50,000 new homes by removing some things on Greenbelt. Look, I've always been the proponent of that. Greenbelt is never gonna be touched. And I know Ford wanted to touch it in 2018 or so, and he got a lot of backlash. But now he's got a kind of a clear shelter or a shield to say, look, we've got to build more homes and remove it. And you know what? I'm gonna change my tune on the Greenbelt. I get the whole environmental stuff, and if they're replacing some of the Greenbelt for other spots so that they're keeping some of the forestry around the existing Greenbelt, just expanding it further north so there's more people to move into the Golden Horseshoe. I'm good with that, because at the end of the day, are you going to value people who are suffering with no homes or the tree, right? And I have enough compassion that I want more affordable housing to be built in Golden Horseshoe, because like we were saying earlier, now they're increasing immigration by 10%. The crazy thing about all of this is I think there's gonna be a lot of pushback. And even if we open up all the room in the Greenbelt, it's not gonna make houses more affordable. It's just gonna make the ability for prices to go up less likely, right? Because the cost of construction and all this stuff is still gonna be there. Now, if you're wondering where they're proposing this, there's a map over here that basically points out all the little pockets of where they're opening up some of their Greenbelt. I think the biggest one here will be by the Curtis and Clarington and Oshawa pocket that's up here, and that'll be quite nice. Now, the thing about, these lands opening up is, who owns these lands? These guys are going to be really rich, because all of a sudden their farmland that can't be developed, all of a sudden can build thousands of homes. Fishy. I wonder who owns those, right? Yeah. If you found this content useful, make sure to help me spread the knowledge by smashing the like button and subscribing to the channel. And if you're looking for some help on how to navigate the real estate market, book a call right here, www.chatwithzen.com. Okay, next topic here. Toronto condo mania is over. Yeah, in short, I would say yes for the time being. I talked about the assignment kind of collapsing, and then the B lenders and the potential privates coming through. I'll put both the videos in the cards up here. But essentially, they're kind of framing this from a different person's perspective so that it's more understandable, right? And they're saying that someone basically got a pre-construction in 2020 and now could cost them his life savings because the property has been appraised for less than what it's worth. And I've been saying this a lot since 2017, 2018, when you're buying a property in pre-con that's worth more than the thing across the street, if the market doesn't go up, if it gets stale at any point, you could be hurt. I saw this in 2017 with freehold, and now we're seeing this with condos because a lot of people were buying stuff that was 20% over what the condo across from it was selling for, and we're gonna have a lot of issues. Now, this is kind of where I'm hoping to try to make a difference, where it says, for the first time in beginning, it looks like there are cracks, large ones at first, forming the Toronto once booming market. I've been calling red flags on this a long time, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are calling me about how to get out of this, but if you're in the contract, it's very, very difficult, and this is just the start of it. I don't think we're gonna see a huge boom because right now, I was saying in the last video, right, the condos are getting really, really soft right now. And when prices are so high and the expectations of rent are probably stagnating for at least the time being, it's very, very difficult to move a lot of condo inventory right now. The only saving grace is eventually like when we have a shortage because no one's selling right now, which is again, 5-7 years with the immigration coming in, then maybe we'll see a boom in prices for condos because it's the most affordable segment. But for the time being, like short-term, mid-term, I don't think it's happening, right? Now, here's the thing that I've always said, that our system incentivized is the wrong way, right? Because they're addressing that it requires 75 to 80% of the condo units to be sold to finance the project. So these are non-big builders who have the capital to do this without getting financing, right? So you need the investors to create supply, which is why effectively condos are kind of like a bunch of private mom and pop coming together to build a rental building and they rent it out. So most of the people who buy these are investors, right? Because people who are buying a pre-con, their life always changes and they generally don't end up living there. So you kind of have a really bad incentive structure on how to build these things, but at the same time, you need the investors to do it. So when the investors are backing out because they're seeing appraisals come down, we're gonna have a supply shortage because people aren't investing, right? So it's kind of like a catch-22, like chicken and egg situation. It's just bad. It's just bad. And this is the last thing I'm gonna comment about this. A lot of people have called me about this. And look, I'm not a lawyer, but the best thing you could do is if you can somehow talk about getting a mutual release about if you can't afford it, if you get a mutual release, you're not obligated to the contract of that condo anymore. And whatever the cost would be to you, that's something that you're gonna have to negotiate with the builder. But if you decide to walk from your deposit and you lose, call it the 5-10% or however much you paid, and then you just kind of peace out, the builder does have the ability to come sue you if they sell the property for less because there is now identifiable damages, right? So if you bought for 500 and then the builder sells it for 400, that delta, they can sue you for the 100 grand difference and that's looming over you and that could cause you to go bankrupt, right? So you just gotta go and see what your exit options are. My belief is if you over leverage yourself anyways because you bought like 5 pre-cons because you think you can flip them for money, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble and you wanna cap the downside. So maybe take a little bit of a loss right now so you don't have to end up going bankrupt. Another interesting thing that they mentioned here is that they're saying that they're using the same commitment, the mortgage pre-approvals to buy multiple pre-cons. And yes, that is true, but I'm almost for certain that people are just getting these things written for free when you buy with certain platinum brokers because that's just how pre-con is marketed, right? And then the last part here is saying that typically in a 300 unit building, they're seeing like 30 assignments. Now they're seeing closer to 60, 80, which is now about 20% of the building, which is a lot. And I would not be surprised if we're gonna get to even more in the future because this is just the tip of the iceberg that we're seeing right now. I think there's more pain to be felt in the pre-con space. If you bought between 2019, which are kind of safe, 2020, it's gonna get bad, 2021, bad, and 2022, really bad. That's kind of where I'd rank it just based on where the average price is going. All right, and then we're lightning through this. This one is just interesting. It's basically talking about how we're maybe going to get some supply shortage. You can see that in September 2022, we had the lowest amount of permits. It fell 17.5%, which is the largest decline that Canada's ever seen, which is basically saying that, look, a lot less people are building. What I see this as a trickle-down effect is we're going to have supply shortages later in the like a decade. But what's going to happen is the construction industry, because there's no permits, are going to start losing jobs. They're losing jobs, which means that it's going to affect the market because construction, I think, is like 8% of the GDP in Canada. So it's not looking good. It is not looking good. And we got the last topic here. Freeland's mini budget waives interest on student loans, sends money to low-income workers. Here's keep saying this, you can't fight inflation by spending more money and putting more money into the system. It just doesn't work that way. Look, I got student loans because we didn't have money growing up, so I had to borrow money to go to school and university. But to make it interest-free, it's only just going to drive tuition costs up. And the person that ultimately ends up benefiting the most are universities and colleges. If you're going to have so much incentives for people to go to school, at the very least, can you cap tuition or make universities build more student housing so that's not left in the private sector? Like, these are my issues with kind of this no interest thing. And it's not saying that students have it easy or anything. Like, students have it hard because cost of tuition and living is going up. But this isn't going to help anybody. It's just what I think is pandering for votes because the students that are coming up are the next biggest cohort of voters. Coincidence? And then you got your Canadian worker benefit payment. It's just like that $500 they're helping for inflation. It's not going to help anybody because that money probably is going to get eaten up right away with inflation on food, gas, or just rental prices going up. All it's doing is going to the landlord's pocket or the grocery store's pocket. And it's not helping anybody. And when they have more money and they pay those people, it's just going to drive up the cost of those products or services or housing. And this is why I'm saying when you send money out there to people to fight inflation, it's just not going to work. You need austerity. Stop spending on things. Everyone buckle down if you want to bring the budget down. And I just don't think our governments are doing this. And I'm just going to leave it at that for any more hot takes regarding politics. Anyways, if you found this content helpful and you're looking for some help on how to navigate the real estate market right now, you can book a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.